PPT up over there. Yeah, so सभी को बहुत बहुत नमस्कार. आज वर्ल्ड एनवायरनमेंट डे है, पर्यावरण दिवस है. आप सबको उसकी बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं. और पर्यावरण दिवस है और हम सब बात कर रहे हैं एक बेटर एनवायरनमेंट की. और when we talk about the better environment, the natural source, which is sun as well as the wind, becomes very important, right? And when we talk about sun and wind, it is quite imperative to know that what is the basic thing behind it which is energizing it. So if I also tell you one thing, today is a very great day. Today also it's a day when we celebrate Gayatri Jayanti. It's the Vedic mantra hymn which we know as Gayatri mantra. Today is the day when today the power of Gayatri is at its extreme, and Gayatri is the source of sun energy. When I talk about the energy and part of Gayatri, the Gayatri month all of us would have heard about. But what it talks about is that you illuminate our intellect and use it on the right path. The right path today, which you're talking about as a part of solar harnessing energy, is to decide what is good and what is not good for us, where we're trying to use it to the level of the way we use it at our home, the energy of solar to the part of use at the other places, how we are able to move to the right path, how we are able to decide on that, and create a cleaner and greener environment. एक स्वच्छ भारत, एक साफ भारत और एक हरित भारत जो है, और हरित प्रोग्राम के लिए जिसके हम लोग आए हुए हैं, हमको सौभाग्य मिला. I am very happy to be here. Thank you for that, for the organizers for calling me for this program. Let me just try to come to the topic of this. Today, I'm over here as a service provider. The last 28 years of my journey started with Indian Oil Corporation as one of the young GETs, passed out from one of those colleges in India, from college campus selection, to that part of going on to work along with establishing a CGD network in India with one of those very starting entity which was working in CGD space in Mathura, and then to work with the biggest names in the consulting world like McKinsey and PwC in the energy sector. In 2018, we took a turn and we started with the AssetPlus consulting. The idea was how to harness the energy, the knowledge of energy which has been there across the spectrum which you see in the domain of grid management, very, very important, to the level of how the energy is planned and distributed in the network, which is kind of forecasting and how it has to be seen, to the level of which are the elements of where my energy leakages happen to control them, plus to the level of what was coming up is on the renewable aspect, which is solar and wind. The whole idea was that can we create an ecosystem where we are using these advanced technologies, if you see in the top, like what we keep hearing them about, right, from the part of big data to the blockchain, AI. And let me tell you, friends, way back in 2018, BACS is kind of founding entity for us. We did our first AI order with them on the part of the forecasting in 2000, way back in 18. And we started the journey of how the forecasting can happen, grid stabilization can happen. And then it was IGL who gave us the second order to look at part of how the modeling can be looked under different work. So that is the way the journey started. And journey started looked at part of how this technology or the things which we keep hearing about, AI and machine learning, can be started with. What is the thing? So typical thing which we know is if we have to drive the value of any investment which we make, any kind of journey which we move on, the first and the foremost thing is start from the part of data to the level of what it's trying to tell us and what actions we are taking on those data to give us the value. Today we are over here to look at the value of how to keep the environment harnessed with this part of resources. What we have is solar and wind, and to use them to the energy which has been used inside our both the entities. If I look at the perspective of the distribution network, in the distribution network we have, I hope I'm audible to all, it's not echoing? Yeah. So when we look at part of distribution network, we call them as LT network, right? And in the LT network, the solar rooftops have been there for quite some time, but they have got quite a momentum under the Pradhan Mantri Surya Ghar Yojana, where a lot of these solar rooftops have been coming up. But the perennial problem which was been there on those solar rooftop is that we are looking at in this sector, if you see the network, in the distribution aspect, there is a two-way flow of energy. At one end, I'm also giving back to the grid. I'm also other end, I'm taking from the grid. Same time, with the part of suddenly the cloud cover comes in, I don't get the supply, I'm taking energy from the grid. How will my distribution company can balance it out and know what time I'm needing it, what time I'm not needing it? And today we are seeing a very disruptive pattern of weather. Every 10 days raining in Delhi. I mean, suddenly you can't plan when you're trying to look at changing. The grid codes have also evolved. Now, I remember 20 years back when I started journey in this sector, we were giving in a one-day advance schedule for balancing the grid network to SLDCs. Today, it has been reformed to level of 6 blocks, which we can look at. Now, 6 blocks is where we are 6 blocks. We call them at 96 minutes, 96 blocks in a day, 15 minutes. And that 15 minutes now is coming down to 5 minutes also. So that's where part of granularity of data which we are trying to go into model and control so that we're giving a flexibility to the users to do. Now, this injection which is happening in the LT network has to be balanced. My distribution company need to know about that. And same way, my HT network, where my large solar plants, solar or wind, whatever it is, right? So when they are injecting into my 33 kV network, high kV network, it's a one-way traffic. They are taking the power, generating as an auxiliary power, but the full they are putting into the grid to balance it out, to maintain it, and then. In that place, my requirement is to look at my network, which has been planned at the level. So I'm looking at my injection schedules and my withdrawal schedules at my grid level. So I'm looking at my CTU and STU level of availability of corridor to work on that. Now, on both the sides of network of solar, when you look at LT network with the distribution companies to the part of the HT network, it's all about how I can drive a grid economics. This is what is a thing which is required by everyone. And when we talk about the grid economics, it comes in about how I'm able to look at the planning of network. With an EV also coming up in the district sector, we look at an EV load is being managed to the part of the grid load. We are looking at distributed EV charging efficiency, so they also become part of a node which is drawing the power. So how the grid network planning can happen, one important challenge. Second is, very, very important while you're looking at this kind of area is power markets. How I am trying to look at my market so that I am get an advantage of low cost buying and even to supply the power at as a generator, I can supply the power at a best rate to and a corridor availability. If you look at the case of Chhattisgarh, they have a good number. Look at the case of Tamil Nadu. They have a very large amount of solar and renewable penetration, but their evacuation is restricted. Why? Because the corridors are not available. They're still getting up. So when we look at part of the generation power markets, they have to look at how to sell the power with the generating. If what is the use of I'm generating, it's same like I make a food of 100 people for my home to come for event, only 10 people have been coming up, so 90 people food go waste. So that's the way I'm generating it for, so now I'm not paying for the sun rays are free for me, but still I'm trying to pay for the cost of the entire other assets which are working in. And in that case, the forecasting, which is their system, becomes very important. When we talk about forecasting, only one thing comes to our mind is at the extreme end of what is I'm generating out. I'll show you some of the things where essentialities of where we are working and what is actually driving the grid balancing on the forecasting at the DC level. At the AC level, I can forecast on the grid what is going on, but what is happening at DC level, that's very important. And then, all on this, my dear friends, when I was doing being a PhD in forecasting, when I was looking at working on with BRPL, BYPL, Tata Powers and other companies over here, about 18 years back, as PwC, when I was asked to look at forecasting, we were actually trying on part of the weather data, looking at AccuWeather and those data, because we were not getting the right data, because right data was very expensive. IMD, if you says, today it will rain, it will be dry, very heat. So we were not really looking at IMD's data. And we were relying on the data of AccuWeather, which was saying what was the weather of Islamabad was same as the weather of Delhi. So the same thing, which will not happen because you find that there's a difference. Now, in the last 15 years of journey, today weather is available cheaper rate and weather is available accurately. Now, if your input still is a part of a margin of 5% error, then when you produce an output will be 10% error. Right? Classic case happened in UP when we went in and then we were trying to do a forecast and they said, okay, what is the accuracy of forecast? So we said the accuracy of forecast depends on part of what weather input I get, then only I will tell you. But the weather input, they say, I need a map from the maps, or the weather maps which can be from NASA was with better thing than what you're getting from the IMD. But today the scenario has changed. Today weather data is available freely, cheaply, and then we can have much more better. So this is where the journey of time which happens on and thing. And then what is very important is, my dear friends, is part of when you look at distribution company, how to reduce my power procurement cost, input cost and power procurement. That's the biggest one on my balance sheet. If I look at part of financial modeling, and with this part of my solar coming in or rooftop, and leveraging that, can I reduce my power procurement cost? Yes, very good objective, very noble, and we all look for that. But for that, we have to plan it. We have to forecast, we have to look part of consumer input demand segment, and then look at option. And everything look for sustainable option. Sustainable, when part of sustainability of sustainability of financial, as well as the sustainability on the part of the goals, SDG goals, which have been defined. Same way for the generation, we are looking at generation cost optimization. The way the power cost procurement is the generation cost optimization, which is there. Maximize resource. What is the resource in there? Wind and solar, how to maximize them. And then keep my office sustainable. So both the arms of my body, be the part of distribution or be the part of my HT network, my higher, the EPC players or the solar generators, both of them we service as a part of one body, and then we look at them as a service provider, how they can balance, how to look at their need. Now, this is very interesting. I mean, probably this is what comes from experience. We say experience is always the best thing to share. This is our experience. And what we are seeing over there, the data analytics which we do for solar is for revenue maximization and loss reduction. That means where I'm able to look at my revenue. So my revenue will come if I'm able to generate more of my power into the grid. More and more power I'm able to generate, they'll give my revenue. But where the loss is coming in, look at the part of, so I have 3 stages in my conversion process. Which look at. One is my DC power, which I'm looking at, DC generation. I'm converting to AC, and then I'm putting from LT to HT network. At all these conversion, now, good look back to school time. We taught about the water being converted to part of, and these are MS, theta, and ML, which was being used. Every conversion will have a loss, which is there. So there's a loss of energy. And this is the loss, which is actually impacting us in terms of what we are putting to the grid. Right? So if my dust impact is there on the panel, if my dust is there on the panel, can I look at part of my larger output? No, we cannot do. Now my dust, my dear friends, my dust meter can't measure because one place, no. Because the dust philosophy then we have, if you look at all across India, the soil pattern is different. Somewhere black soil, red soil, alluvial soil, the microns of the soil levels which are there, the way the wind blows, it tries to go on the top, it rolls up, down, and stays someplace. And that's the place where you find the lower part of the slant which is there, the more of the soil dust will be there, and the higher part will have less dust. That means your panel will generate less power from the lower portion, the higher portion, and then when you send a drone, it will only capture one photo, it will not capture the other part of it. You will have a wrong interpretation of the data. Your panel or an array or a string what is trying to generate will not come out. So dust impact, dust modeling on an AI aspect. It's a completely AI perspective we look at. So I'm talking about when these are the blue one are the modeling which you look at to impact how my generation can happen better. Cell degradation. Solar panels put in the back of it, my cell will degrade at the rate of 1.5% 5 years. After, is there any time machine put into that that says, okay, when you put on 2018, it will degrade in 2022 only or 2023? Nothing. We do not know. So there's nothing like that which shows. And we have a very classic study done on the part of MNRE which shows the panel that was showing 20 years of life has degraded in 5 years. 0. Been scrapped out, which is there. One of very renowned vendor. I don't want to take the name of that. And so you are looking at part of DC efficiency, conversion. If at this stage, I'm able to convert more of my power into DC energy, larger conversion, absolutely I'm going to get a higher rate of input. This is where it becomes the biggest, largest intervention of technology comes in, and AI, machine learning modeling comes in for these perspectives. The second area is on the AC, on the inverter. Inverter knocking, copper winding, aluminum winding, and in part of, whatever, see, inverter ratio which we look at part of, inverter ratio will be whatever we're feeding in, the output will give you the part of the 100%. But what is the quantity which has gone in? 20% gone in or 100% gone in part of it? So at that level, the inverter efficiency and the conversion DC becomes very important. Again, a modeling, cluster modeling looks in part of telling and the thing. The third part is how you are injecting to the grid. So at the grid injection, we're looking at Are you looking at part of what is my availability of the weather to the availability of my system, and then plan it out and look at part of overall what will I'll inject, depending on what is my grid availability. So that becomes a part of my grid efficiency, generation efficiency at that level. And third is very, very important today in current scenarios, my dear friends, when today we are sitting 2004 when the National Solar Mission was launched to 2025, and the journey in that part, a lot of which has been done, 2014 onward when the mission has always accelerated. In this last 20 years of thing, the panels have mostly degraded. The life has gone down. We can't expect them to perform the same way. So that's where what is my remaining life of the thing. These are very, very important perspective when you look at modeling on the grid perspective and look at the outcome of this. And let's just share you how the analytics comes into the perspective furthermore. So the analytics are the journey. We can't expect that things to start producing. A baby cannot, the one who's born, cannot start writing and reading. In US and India nowadays, we start teaching our children the way they are born, we start teaching them jingles, right? But the things is there, we can't do it in analytics, which is there. In analytics, there is a journey. There is a data management, how well I'm capturing the data. The second thing is, am I able to look at the part of the outcome, make a descriptive? That means, can I really understand, do a descriptive? When we go to a doctor says, describe yourself, Sumit, what has happened to you? So what is my plant telling to a descriptive perspective? And then it's a part of what I can do to predict how the journey has to happen, and then the advanced AI to print. I give some example. Data management, these are the ways we try to get the data from a plant, be it the part of my rooftop, be it a part of my large plants, this way. And these are where I get to know my efficiency of the plant, by my revenue, my outcomes, these are beautiful dashboard. You can have thousands of them made, various technologies are available to do them. But then as we go, the limitation of technology comes in. There could be Tableau who can do a good dashboard. There could be Click which can do a good dashboard. There could be SAS who can do a good dashboard. But then we got to go in part of, can they do a good forecasting, and then they can do a good generation analysis modeling, part of larger chunk. Could be constrained. And that's the way that technology take a next step, and they go in part of the open source systems, Python and other program comes up to help you is look at. Now when the data becomes too intensive, again it becomes a problem to look at, can it resolve? So mathematical modeling has to do statistical modeling, there's some formula R in there, those kind of thing comes up to look at. And then last but not the least is looking at how much cell is degrading. And that's where we come out for the advanced modeling condition of deep learning, which you keep hearing about, right, AI in this part. So this is journey on which how the data and modeling, how the analytics, how this advanced analytics comes into place. So analytics have two things. One is a part of simple analytics, like the part of dashboarding. And second, advanced analytics, which is a part of when we look at predicting out, right? And then looking at part of controlling it aspect. Those are the element of this. This is the platform which we have built, my dear friends, which is looking at the left side. If you look at it, contains all the elements of my thing, be it a part of my PV, my temperature sensors, my radiations, weather. See, ultimately, we have to give a kind of black box. The way we travel in airplane, we say black box contain all the data. And the black box tells us how to move in. This is a black box. This black box actually works on the technology. I don't want to tell. So this technology aggregate the data from various source systems. One of the best things we know about the technology now when looking at, we know that the data in our phone, we see in multiple ways, right? In phone, we have a data which is there as a part of SMS. We have a data as a part of my pictures. We have a data as a part of my videos. We have also data as a part of the voice and audio, right? In the phone, all of you? Agree? Agree or not? I think the session after lunch, there's always a two fight. Coach or a cook, who is actually taking a front seat, whether the coach is driving or a cook is driving. I think the cook is heavier this side now. Huh? Is it? Okay, let's the coach has to take a different stand. Okay, so I'll make it. Tell me then, does my mobile has these things? Can I get a mobile? Same is the data which you try to get from the plant field. Ask the part of distribution companies. They get the data, these data coming up from all the places. Now I give a very classic example. When we move and be in Delhi over here, when there is nobody on the crossing, Mamu, the police wala is not there, we find that the traffic go haywire, isn't it? Right? All of you agree with me? All of you, those who agree, please raise your hand. Okay, those who don't agree, that means you have not been crossing the Choraya, right? So when we look at part, can you count the number of vehicles who are moving at that point of time from their crossing? Can you count? So what is the pattern of the entire flow of the traffic at that point of time? What will we call in one language, one word? Unorganized, isn't it? Unstructured. Can you count the vehicles are moving in? No, so it's unorganized, isn't it? Completely moving haywire. You agree with me, all of you? Yeah, okay. Now, suddenly, so completely unstructured or unorganized. Okay. Now, second is, as somebody sees, who is in the front lane of the thing, he sees that there is a Mamu who is approaching for event outside for a tea. Good weather over in Noida, so he went out for tea and they're coming up. Suddenly, one person start applying brake. What will happen? You'll find that the people behind him is following him, then moving in the line. Right? Then what you will say, again, the traffic condition. Somewhat organized. Right? We can call the word semi-organized. Isn't it? Or a semi-structured. Agree with me? Okay. Now when this guy comes and sits on the part of the crossing, what will find? All the people are moving in their lane. Isn't it? Have you seen them? When there's a traffic controller over there, all the people move in the lane. That means we have everybody move. We can count the people. Right? It's like a structure. Everything is structured. So in the language of AI or machine learning, we define the data by these three aspects. The unstructured is, which we cannot actually, we can see, what is it? Images. You see images, but can you try to keep and tie them with yourself and know that, okay, this images, convert them and make them, this is the mama, this is papa, this is chacha. Can you make it? No, you can see them, but can you relate into the data? No, they are unstructured. There's a second part of data, which is the videos like that. The second part of data, which comes as part of PDF, text, which is there, which you can read, partly you can convert, but then it is available to you. That is called semi-structured. The third part of thing is the Excel, which you can combine together. You work on Excel, isn't it? So that Excel, when you combine together, it becomes a part of very structured language. This is the way the data has to be converted from the images to the Excel, then only your machine learning will work. The process of transitioning this unstructured data to the machine language or structured is called AI. If we apply in this part of it, I have got photos for the sense, I have got videos, I have got these data. These are my unstructured data. And this is where my advanced analytics comes into picture to look at. Okay? This is where is a solar rooftop aspect. Just quickly I want to tell you. And this is what I was telling you, some use cases. So you know SCADA data you heard about. SCADA is very organized data, right? All of you know SCADA is very organized data. It's a structured data over there. Now, you will have a data which is coming out from images, unorganized, unstructured, you can see below. Then there's the data from the weather, coming in the PDF or part of unstructured, which is semi-structured part of. This whole data is put together into this black box to do some of those use cases. I'll just show you something. Look at these images of a solar plant. Now, this solar images, real life example, which is there, is telling you how to look at what is the condition of this particular solar cell to generate. Now, if I'm looking at part of my plant capacity of 2 megawatt and say, okay, 1 kilowatts, 3 to 4 units, multiply that, this is my generation happened? No. That means you will not be able to fulfill the obligation of the grid. The grid obligation will not there. You'll have a penalty on the grid if you don't put that part of it, right? So we have a penalty which has been imposed. So this is where you tell the condition. This cell condition on the dust part of it and the clean has to be converted into the part of thermal image modeling. And then this particular modeling is put into another thing called on the convolutional neural network. Neural network you would have heard about, same like a brain. It tries to take all the features and tell how much portion of my image is on shadow, how much portion of my image is on dust, how much portion of the image is yellow, which will generate power. That means how much the image of portion will generate the current. We look at current only. This is where it tries to tell, and then it tries to tell in terms of what is the level of degradation. This is the level of degradation which tells about. The red line is a part of degradation. You can see in 670 months, the panel has degraded to the part of how much? 20%. What will generate? This is what tries to tell me the part of ability to generate, because then only I am able to plan my grid better if I know what is my capacity to generate, what is the capacity to actually generate for the DC power to come in. Now, second is the forecasting. What are we trying to forecast on? You know all the variables. I'm not trying to go and forecast the subject. But when we're looking at the part of forecasting this, the various very, very important element goes in part of how do we understand the parameters which are there. The parameters are the level of where we require part of, what time frame of the parameters, what is the part of level, because the more the part of parameters which are there, more accurately, I'm just finishing 2 minutes only. So more accurately you're able to do. I'm talking some of the practical experience which is useful for the audience over here, right? And then the another use case which is there used in O&M perspective of my plant. There is a text modeling which is involved in part of, you get a lot of cell information in the Excel. There's a text modeling which has been involved as a part of element to look how and what way I can try to improve the outcomes of my panels, cleanness, as well as to generate them more power. So when you have these use cases, my dear friend, it helps you to do a better solar plant energy audit. Because we need to do solar plant energy audit, very, very important, each component level. It helps you to understand the plant efficiency and also level of the cell module. It looks at part of generation ability for various levels, and it helps you to get your net return on investment which is there. So that's what is a perspective on net return investment, and which is always an approach which people look at to work around. Thank you, thanks a lot, which is part of perspective to show how an AI is trying to come into the sector and helping out. Thank you.